Hi there, welcome to Long Distance Review, and Happy New Year to you all, as this is my first review of 2019. I hope you all had a nice New Year and a nice Christmas, and back to business again for 2019. January is a predominantly quiet time, let's say, for album releases. But one album did drop last week, which I was hoping to look at, so that's what I'm reviewing today, and that's by the band Soilwork. And a new album entitled, bear with me on this one, Verkligheten. And I think that's the only time I'm going to try and pronounce that album title on this review. So apologies to anyone who can pronounce that, because I struggled with it, I'll be honest with you. Anyway, this is by the band Soilwork. Soilwork have been going for a long time now, 24 years. They were formed back in 1995, and they're from Sweden. And they were one of the first original bands who came out with the melodic death metal sound, or the Gothenburg sound as it was called back then. There was this big upswelling of bands from Sweden that had this melodic death metal sound, bands like At the Gates or Dark Tranquillity or In Flames, and Soilwork are one of them. And this sound has influenced a lot of modern metal we see nowadays. If you think of bands like Cradle of Filth and Dimmu Borgir, they both incorporate the death metal elements along with the melodic choruses that are so synonymous with this type of music. Like I say, Soilwork were formed in 1995, and their releases are as follows. Bear with me, it's quite a long list. They released in 1998 their debut album Steelbath Suicide. This was followed up in 2000 with Chain Heart Machine, and then in 2001 with Predator's Portrait. 2002 was Natural Born Chaos. In 2003 they had Figure Number 5. In 2005, Stabbing the Drama. In 2007, Sworn to a Great Divide. 2010 was The Panic Broadcast. 2013 was The Living Infinite. And 2015 was The Ride Majestic. As you can see, quite a prolific band over their period of in their career, basically. This is their 11th studio album, and it's their first in 4 years, which is actually the longest period in time between albums for them. And now on to the album. I'll be honest though, I haven't listened to all 10 previous Soilwork albums. They're a band I dip my toes into every now and again. I did enjoy Living Infinite when that came out, and I did check out the Ride Majestic of the more recent albums, and enjoyed them. Melodic death metal is something I do enjoy, but, well, I'll come on to that a bit. Anyway, this was an album I was looking forward to, and so yeah, I thought I'd check it out and do a review for you. The first song proper on the album is a song called Arrival. There is an intro before it, but it's just an intro to the album. And Arrival is a huge hard-hitting opener with huge blast beat drums and a verse which is reminiscent of like Cradle of Filth at times. Has this huge melodic chorus, as you'd expect. And what I didn't expect, there's a sort of guitar tone on this song and on this whole album, which is certainly more of a heavy metal, traditional metal guitar tone than what you could be used to on maybe like a At the Gates album or something like that. And doing a bit of research for the album, I did read that they were veering more into heavy metal, let's say, or looking more into heavy metal on this album than in previous ones. You can certainly see that on the first single they released, which is a song called Full Moon Shoals, which has a real sort of new wave of British heavy metal sound to it, and almost veers into classic rock at times. You can see why it's the first single. It's much more slowed down. It's still pacey, but slowed down compared to like Arrival or the second track, which I've forgotten. And yeah, it's got this much more melodic vocals than the growly vocals on it, and yeah, it's an obvious first single. For me, it's a little bit too trad metal. It does pick up the pace towards the end of the song, actually, and it makes it easier to cope with. I'll be honest, heavy metal and traditional metal isn't my cup of tea. It's not that I've never liked them. I mean, Iron Maiden, one of the first bands I ever got into. I just find it a bit too cheesy at times, and this can drift into that. Like I say, the guitar tone is almost reminiscent of, if you think of modern traditional metal, let's say, or even like Viking metal, like bands like Amon Amarth, it's got that guitar tone to it at time on here. And the song after Full Moon Shoals, called Nurturing Glance, has this almost Thin Lizzy style opening riff, which I really didn't expect, and it drifts really into the heavy metal, almost like Sabaton at times, which is the side of Soilwork I really don't like that much. I think it's just my personal taste. I don't think it's a bad thing on this album. I just don't really like traditional heavy metal. I I prefer the melodic death metal stuff of Soilwork. I always have, and I do like melodic death metal. I've always liked In Flames up until the last couple of albums. A song like When the Universe Speaks on this album's a much more fast-paced melodic death metal song, which is much needed after the previous couple of songs I mentioned. It got me thinking, is melodic death to metal too formulaic? Because at the end of the day, there's only so much you can do with a growled verse and a melodic chorus, and trying to break out of that is a very difficult thing to do in terms of where do you go without completely losing your core sound. And I guess after 10 albums, I can see why Soilwork have tried to be sort of more diverse on this album, but diverse to a point of being almost systematic on here. There's like, here's a traditional metal bit, here's a melodic death metal bit, or here's another traditional metal bit. And although there is diverse, I just find the album a bit too systematic at times. And if anything, it's a little bit too long. It's just 12 tracks long. And although, yeah, one is the intro track, I really think it could have been cut down. Saying that, there are some really, really good songs on this album. I actually like Staufalgor, which is I think it's the second video they released off this, which is a much more mid-tempo heavy metal stomper featuring Alyssa from Arch Enemy. Although you wouldn't really know, she gets lost in the mix a little bit on that song. And near the end of the album, Wittown's probably my favourite song on here, which combines the two elements they're trying to do on this album, the heavy metal stuff and the traditional metal stuff, combined brilliantly with the melodic death metal stuff. And it really showcases Bjorn's incredible vocal range on here. Ageless Whisper is also another really good one. It opens up with this sort of Iron Maiden, Fear of the Dark style opening riff, and then has this huge epic chorus, as you'd expect, like I say. But that's where I think they should have ended the album. That's song number 10. And although I don't think the last two songs are anything bad, or they bring the album down at all, I just don't think they add anything new. I mean, Needles and Kinder's got some really good drum work on it, but it doesn't add anything new or interesting to the album. And I'm not saying this is a bad album, because it's not. This is a good album. It's a good Soilwork album. But after 10 Soilwork albums, it's just, here's another Soilwork album. And I do appreciate that this may just be me on here, because I know that Soilwork have got big fans out there and they're much revered amongst the metal community. But I just think for me, this delves way too far into traditional metal and heavy metal and new wave of British heavy metal and classic rock at times, and a bit too far away from the more melodic death metal stuff that I really enjoy. It's a decent album. It's not a bad album at all. It's a decent album. It's a good listen. It's a nice way to kick off 2019. Enjoyable, but a little bit too lengthy for me. Anyway, let me know what you think. That's Soilwork and their new album, which I can't pronounce. And I'll see you soon, back with some more reviews, hopefully. There's some big albums out soon this year, and I can't wait to listen to them. So yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.